For today, for this assignment, we're going to be talking about narrators in films. Films are made with the intention of sharing with an audience. I know that today with streaming services and the accessibility of films through a number of different medium, there is a little bit of a change, but the point of a film remains the same. Films are presented for a shared experience for an audience. Now, what is that experience supposed to be? Who determines what the experience is? Well, that is determined by a director and the script, which directs a camera to focus on one particular scene for the audience to see. Let's look at one example. Here we are at the movies in 2022, and we've come to see Elvis on the big screen. What we see on the screen is this. We see a bigger-than-life persona performing. What's really going on in this scene? The whole picture includes the director and a number of video monitors showing the director exactly what the options are to show the audience. In some stories, like the films that you will be thinking about when you choose the film to discuss for this particular assignment, the story is told by a narrator. One of the characters in the film is actually a narrator who is telling the story. In the 2022 Elvis film that I've used as an example, Colonel Tom Parker, the nefarious manager of Elvis Presley, tells the story. He has a voiceover where he describes what's going on in the story. He gains the confidence of the character of Elvis Presley and convinces Elvis Presley to allow him to represent the star and plummet him into stardom. Now, that is the situation for the movie that we're going to see. Tom Parker, as the narrator, wants the viewer to see him in a favorable light. In fact, at one point in the film, he actually says, "Without me, there would have been no Elvis Presley." Really? Are you sure about that? Because the kid was pretty talented, and it seemed inevitable that somebody would have discovered his talent and promoted his career. So that's a bit of an overstatement, isn't it? To say, if it wasn't for me, this wouldn't have ever happened. So that's not a true statement. And therefore, that narrator is suspicious. We want to always ask ourselves, is the narrator reliable? Is this narrator telling me the real truth? Did you see the movie The Grinch Who Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey? Well, that film has a narrator. The narrator tells the story. Is the narrator telling the true story? Or is the narrator creating a story with details that make the protagonist, the Grinch, look exactly the way that they want the audience to see that character? So that's the idea of a narrator. Did you see the movie The Great Gatsby? The Great Gatsby is the story of Gatsby, wealthy, handsome, lives on a grand estate, and still is in love with his childhood sweetheart, Daisy Buchanan. Great story, but the person who tells the story is Nick Carraway, this guy. Fairly plain, not particularly accomplished, and could potentially be a little bit jealous of Gatsby and all that Gatsby has attained. So Nick is telling us the story of what happened to the Great Gatsby. Is he a reliable narrator? Is he telling us the complete truth about this story? Or is he kind of picking and choosing facts that he wants to tell us that will make us feel a certain way? Now, you will be finding a film that you enjoy that includes a character who narrates the story. Think of all the films you have seen, and yes, you can use films that are streamed. You can use even episodics from Netflix or from any other many streaming services, as long as that episode that you are using contains a narrator. That means that one of the characters in the story, in a voiceover, is telling the viewer what happened. They are responsible for the telling of the story. Now, you and I both know that that narrator is actually the director who's made some decisions about how the narrator is to be perceived. Your job is to watch that film, movie, episodic, and decide, is the narrator telling the truth and all the truth? And is he therefore, or she, a reliable narrator? Or is that narrator omitting key critical facts that we would need to know in order to really fully analyze whether or not the perceptions of that narrator were correct? Let me give you an example. Somebody has stolen a piece of bubble gum and they're caught. And the person says, "Did you steal that bubble gum from the 7-Eleven?" And the person says, "No, I didn't steal the gum from the 7-Eleven. Well, actually, the gum was stolen, but it was stolen from the 99-cent store. So it's sort of a lie by omission, right? Now the other person says, "Well, did you steal that gum from any store?" And the person says, "Well, I didn't steal the gum. I found it." That is incorrect. The person didn't find the gum. The gum was on the shelf to be purchased along with other items. The person shoplifted the gum. So that is where that person becomes an unreliable narrator. They are telling the story of what happened with this piece of bubble gum, but they're omitting some key critical factors, and they are misusing the word stolen. I hope that helps make sense. From there, you will go on, you'll experiment with this. I want you to be critical when you think about that narrator, and think about the images that you are being shown. The narrator shows us this image of how he saw Elvis, sort of lost and looking like he's out of place. What's really happening in the scene is this. Lots of other things going on under the direction of a director who has selected exactly what he wants the viewer to see. And the direction that that director gives is driven by the narrator of the story. And your job is to figure out if that narrator is telling the truth or not. In the example that you see for this assignment, I show you how I would have completed the assignment. And now take a look at that and have fun and find a narrator of your own and decide whether that narrator is reliable or unreliable. Below this video, you'll see some links for further reading and some suggestions for movies if you can't think of movies off the top of your head that include a narrator. This is a fun assignment. You're going to enjoy this.